This is tea time, yeah. Making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time. Yeah, this is tea time, yeah. Making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, and tune in to Miss Liz. Tea time. Making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time, yeah. Tea time.
Well, welcome to Tea Time, and that's right, Miss Liz is back. It is evening tea time, and yes, it is a Monday. That's right. We're doing a Tea Time special with Joshua Peters. He's in the house, and we're going to talk about hypnosis and all of that good stuff, and some excitement. That's what I got. I got a little bit of excitement. So we're going to turn the anxiety into excitement. We're going to change it around and flip it up a bit. So before we get started, we're going to get the disclaimer out there. We're going to get a little bit of Joshua's bio out there, and then we're going to get you over to Miss Liz's YouTube channel. Ring that little doorbell and get notified when all of these incredible tea times go up. If you haven't heard of Miss Liz, check out Miss Liz's website at www.misslizsteatimes.com. And if you want to know more, just tune in and share this tea time with everyone who's listening tonight. So we want to have you engaging. If you have any questions or comments, put them in the section. If you'd like to stay anonymous, you can send me directly through Miss Liz's Facebook page and send me your questions for Joshua, and I'll get those out to him as well. So let's get started with the disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz myself is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised the content brought forward for any Tea Time show hosted by myself, Miss Liz, is always brought forward in good faith. However, may bring forth dialogues and opinions that are not representative of my platform. The facts and information are perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All Tea Time guests and audience participants are responsible for using their good judgment and taking any action that may relate to the discussions. The content brought forward may include discussions for some where they may be emotionally at risk. It is significant to know that this show is engaging in discussion forums only to offer and inspire awareness and connection and is not providing therapeutical advice. If you have any questions about the disclaimer or the panelist discussion, you may freely contact me tonight at Miss Liz through my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com. Moving forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in tonight's show in any aspect, I myself, Miss Liz, welcomes you. And should you decide that the show is not made for you at this time, I respect those wishes, and we'll see you at a later show at a later date and time. And again, all Tea Time regular shows are hosted on a Thursday, 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. If it's done on a Monday, Tuesday, or a Wednesday, it is a rescheduled Tea Time or a surprise Tea Time. Or who knows, somebody who has reached out to Miss Liz and said, hey, I want my tea served on your table. So we have all of that comes here. Now, a little bit about Joshua. Well, Joshua is a hypnotist and coach who helps you find your inner strength and confidence so you don't have to feel anxiety, fear, or doubt and can crush every area of your life. In his weekly podcast, Super States, he interviews experts in trance and personal development. Joshua works with entrepreneurs, business owners, and professionals around the world based out of his office in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'll get him to say it. I can't say that one. Joshua believes you have the power to transform your life, and he is committed to helping you get the results you want. The arts and science of hypnosis, the benefits of shadow work, using super state to change your life. Let me get Joshua in here and let's spill some tea. And tonight's tea is transformation, empowerment, and authenticity. So let me get Joshua in here. Welcome, Joshua.
Hi, Miss Liz. Great to be here.
My tongue twists. I swear, it's all the excitement. Like you said, excitement. So welcome to the show, Joshua.
Thank you. It's Minneapolis.
Minneapolis. Oh, see, if I get somebody to say it before me, I can then say
It's
it.
not a problem.
I don't understand why that happens. So Joshua, let's take you way back to the little guy you were. So who were you as a little guy and who are you now as a grown guy?
Who was I as a little guy? Curious. What else? Creative. And I was a little bit of an artist.
Oh.
And also I was kind of sneaky and naughty sometimes.
Oh, you're a rebel.
A little bit of a rebel. Yeah.
And who are you now?
I'm still much of those same things, actually, now that I think about it. Probably pretty much exactly the same kind of a person. I'm curious about life. I like to be creative in how I live. I'm still a bit of a rebel. But I think I'm probably a little bit healthier in how I express those things. I hope so anyway.
Well, and the reason that I asked that question is because we want to see if you brought in the little guy into the older guy, like the inner child, that
Yeah.
young. Um, and my listeners, they always say, Miss Liz, why do you ask that question? It's because growing up, sometimes we're hidden, right? Or we're not able to speak. We're allowed to be seen and heard, and then we become motivational speakers and podcasters like ourselves, right?
Right. Nobody can stop us from being heard now.
That's the rebel in us, I think. So, Joshua, tell us a little bit on how you got into hypnosis.
Sure. I just want to touch on the child thing just a second, and then I'll jump into that, because I think it's really important to connect with that younger version of us. And it's because, like, when we're little, we just kind of get to be us, and we don't have so many layers of junk that are piled on it that kind of shape us into other things. So I think that's a really good question, because it does talk about authenticity, which is one of the T's today. But because when we're young, we're just most of the time we're just authentically us.
Yep.
And as I'm actually kind of happy that you surprised me with that question, and I look back and I feel like I am living like that still. So just just wanted to throw that out there. That's a great question. I really like how that frames this. So for me, the process of becoming a hypnotherapist was kind of a longer one, and it really started around the age of 32, 33, when I was at the end of a marriage. And I had kind of got to this point in my life where I had made a bunch of choices by not making choices. So I was in this marriage that was ending, and it was never a particularly good match. Had 5 kids. I'm living in a town where I grew up, and I never wanted to live there, but I was there for 20 years. I'm working at a job that I thought was going to be my dream job, but it's slowly pulling apart my soul. And all of this kind of came together in this moment where it got really clear that the marriage is done. I didn't know what to do. And so my sister said, well, go do this workshop. And I go do this workshop. It's called Landmark Forum. Many people have heard of Landmark Forum. It's basically a personal development weekend. And when I went to this thing, the wisdom that came out of it for me that really stuck was, there is no inherent meaning to life, except that the meaning that we give to things. And we get to decide what that meaning is. And going through this weekend, when I heard that, it really it lit a fire for me to make my life the way I wanted it to be, and not let choices by not making choices happen, and really start to be intentional. So I started doing that. I filed for a divorce. I found a job that was closer to my kids so I could be there for them more often, so that and it was in alignment with my values. I quit smoking. I had separated myself from the community, and I didn't want to live there, blah, blah, blah. I had lots of stories around all of that. And I started to connect with the community, to be part of the local community. I just started doing all these things to shift my life around. And through that process, I realized I like performing, and I I got really fascinated with the art of sideshow. And sideshow is things like um, laying on a bed of nails, eating fire, escaping from a straitjacket.
Oh,
And I found myself a mentor out in Pennsylvania. He was, and he taught me all of these acts. But the thing that he really brought forward was, he's like, it's really not that hard to do these things, and it's kind of boring to just stand up in front of people and say, hey, look what I can do. So the real beauty in these acts is creating a story to them and having a reason for why you're doing this. And so I built a story, a show around these acts that was family friendly and a comedy show, and toured it around the Midwest for about 10 years at local outdoor festivals. Uh, Took my kids, it was just a fun thing to do. And I made a little bit of money at it. All of this time, I'm working at a corporate job, which was an organic food company. It felt like I was making a difference. I was trying to, make the world better than how I got here. Uh, and what I learned, though, as I was doing these acts, is they are really very simple to do. It's not hard to eat fire. It's not hard to lay on a bed of nails or to walk on broken glass. All of that stuff is actually, you just have to do it. But the hard part is, and you can probably can see it on your face, Liz. The hard part about this
I'm
is
kind of like just
shoving a burning torch in your face, right? Or
right.
or walking on a pile of broken glass with bare feet. We've been taught from children not to do either of these things. And so this is about facing fear. It's a mindset thing around fear. Fear is the thing that held me back all those years. Fear was the thing that kept me in the relationship because I was afraid nobody else would want me. Fear was the thing that kept me living in that small town because it was a lot easier to stay in that small town than to try to put myself out into the world. All of these acts were teaching me and training me face my fears in a relatively low low danger type of situation, right? So I did that for about 10 years, and I had really pushed it as far as I could go. And around that time, I met a woman who I really clicked with, somebody that I really wanted to explore a relationship with. But she didn't live in the small town in Wisconsin that I lived in. She lived in the Minneapolis, St. Paul, Twin Cities of Minnesota. And I knew that I wanted to move there and be close and really explore this relationship. But my kids didn't want to come with me. And to me, that was hard. I had spent at that point about 30 years being a dad and being there for my kids, and I had the family home still, and I was the one that they could always count on. Not that their mom couldn't, but I was just this more solid one.
Yeah.
And again, fear showed up. I met a hypnotist, and she helped me move past that. And really what she helped me realize was, again, it's all about choices. It's all about meaning. I could make this work. I could move up there, but also be there for my kids. And for about 4 years, I spent a week in the Twin Cities, and then I spent a week down in Wisconsin. And I would work remote when I was in the Twin Cities. I would work in the office when I was back, and I stayed at my family cabin that we have down here. And I had 2 kids left in high school. They would stay with me as that went on. So I made it work. But I also got really interested in hypnosis, and this was about the 3rd time that it had showed up for me throughout my life. And as I started looking for what I really want to do, what am I really going to do when I grow up, I knew I didn't want to stay in corporate. It was good, but it was not meaningful to me.
Yeah.
I just realized if I could help other people move past their fears in a much faster way than the 10 years that it took me, and I could get, make a pretty good living doing that. Well, what better way could I think of? What more empowering way? That's the E and T today. What more empowering way could I think of to live my life? And so I found a hypnotist. I trained with him. I mentored with him for a little over a year. Started seeing clients after that, mostly friends or coworkers or family members, anybody that would sit down with me, and I started learning. And after about a year and a half, I had built up a practice, I had built up a business, and I went full time. That was fall of 2018. So I've been full time since the fall of 2018.
Wow. So you're not one of these hypnotists that go on cruise ships and put everybody into the big trance, right? And have them do crazy things.
I mean, I have been trained to do that. So one of the things about hypnosis is it's very fascinating, and there's so much that you can learn. I don't do that as that's not how I make my living, doing, performing style. I am a hypnotherapist or hypnotist, depending on who you talk to. I usually work one-on-one with clients, helping them move past a fear, an anxiety, a worry, something that's blocking them from living the life that they want. Kind of like what happened with me. And but usually I'm working with them for a relatively short period of time to move past that, to heal whatever's there, and help to empower them, finding their own internal X factor of confidence, of calm, of presence, peace of mind, all those things that people really want.
I really like how you used your T, the words that you gave me, right? Transformation, empowerment, and authenticity. And you're switching your T, and you're giving a little bit of spill over here, a little spill over there. We're really gonna get a messy tea tonight. We're gonna have some fun with it. But I was always curious about hypnosis because I was hypnotized as a young girl due to trauma and stuff, and for personal stuff, right?
Yeah.
But what do you like besides self-doubt, fear, and overcoming and all of that? What do you work with, Joshua, with your clients?
When I think about it, the biggest thing that I'm really helping people with is anxiety. And that shows up in a lot of different ways for people. People can come, they might come to me with a phobia, or they call it a phobia, like a fear of flying, a fear of insects, a fear of driving, whatever it happens to be. Like that's kind of a very specific kind of phobia. But most of the time, what's behind that is a more kind of generalized anxiety that they've managed, except for in this one area. Kind of like, I think of it like if you're squeezing the anxiety ball tight and like covering it up, it squirts out between your fingers and shows up in these different ways throughout life. But most of the time I'm working with people for anxiety of different things. A lot of times it's really helping train them to calm their nervous system, because most of the time with anxiety anyway, what's going on is you're getting thrown into a fight or flight or fight, flight, freeze response, right? And you're unable to get out of that. Once you're in that, now you have chemicals flowing through your body. You've got different hormones and everything. You're not even really you anymore. You are you in survival mode.
Yeah.
And it's hard to move past that. So, I mean, really the first thing that I teach people is just how do you do that yourself? And that doesn't even require hypnosis. That's just, here's some techniques and some tools that I've learned and gathered over the years that can help you do that.
So we have a question kind of comment here about the fireballs and walking on glass and that.
Yeah.
So is that like, did you use hypnotize yourself to do that, or was it a state of mind, or you just like, I'm gonna do this? Like, how do you do that? Like,
so remember the little me who's very curious, and I didn't say fearless, but he was pretty fearless too. He also would loved playing with fire.
So you're a fireball baby.
So I one time as a kid, I thought it would be a great idea to light these leaves on fire that are in the window well of our house.
Wow.
Now it didn't burn anything down, but that was a really stupid thing to do. But for whatever reason, I just thought it was great. I loved playing with fire. So I didn't need hypnosis to do these things. It was kind of flipping into the right mindset of
The mindset.
and my teacher was great because he would teach you the science of these things. Like the science between eating fire is that heat rises. So as long as your head is low and the flame is going up, as long as you don't breathe in, you're pretty good.
Because the heat stays to the top.
Yeah, the flame goes up. So and then the other thing to know is we have saliva in our mouth.
Yeah.
So you can literally place a flaming torch on your tongue for a second or two, and you have that saliva that's there that's works as like a cushion, works as like a insulation until it evaporates, which takes about 2 seconds. So you have about 2 seconds there where you have this insulation, so you don't get burned. And if you know these things, you can do it in a way that you're not going to get burned, or you're going to be very. My teacher always said, it's not a matter of if you get burned, it's when and how badly. And so if you're prepared, that badly is going to be very minor. And there's plenty of times that I've gotten just minor burns. It's more like a sunburn is kind of what it feels like. My lips will get dry or something just from being close to fire. But I didn't use hypnosis. I am sometimes I'm just like stupidly blindly go forward.
I'm just doing it.
And just I'm gonna just do this, and then I just do the thing. My wife and I joke because my method of getting something done is ready, fire, aim.
Ready, fight, fire, aim.
And her method is ready, aim, 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 aim. Right? Like there's the people that over prepare.
Yeah.
And don't ever get anything done. Like she will eventually fire, but she's very good at strategy, and she'll know all the things that might happen and has a plan for all of that, where I'm just like, okay, we're doing this and we'll figure it out as we go.
So when you look at fear, Joshua, you just look fear in the eye and you just say, I'm going to just do it, right?
I mean, sometimes it'll still show up, but yeah, that's kind of my method of moving past it is, well, let's just do it and find out what's going to happen.
Right? If you don't try, you don't know. And you see my expression as he was talking about these fireballs and swallowing fire and walking on glass and all of that. You could see it in my face and my expression as well, Joshua, as you were saying it. I was like, oh my goodness. And I didn't know about the comedy. I usually do my homework really well. I didn't know about the comedy. So what is it about comedy that you really found interesting?
I like laughter. Laughter itself is a state change, a really powerful one, because most states have two different, have opposites, love and hate, angry, happy. Laughter, it's kind of like its own thing. And so it's just kind of fascinating to me. I wouldn't say that I'm anywhere near a comedian. I tell some kind of stupid things and it makes people laugh, and I do some stupid things and it makes people laugh, but it's the same jokes all the time because my show, I know I go here and I do it, and then I go here and I do it. So as I read once that an amateur does a different show every night and a professional does the same show every night. I like to do the same show.
So Joshua, you're kind of like those dad jokes, right?
Yeah, kind of like that. Yes, exactly. Surprise, surprise, with 5 kids.
Where you sit in the club and you're just like, I bring the dad joke out that almost like yicky yaks, yakety yak clubs, and just for laughs. That's how I can see you as a comedian. That kind of comedian where you have the same flow, but you know that you have a different audience and different listeners every night. So that, if that same person comes to the same show all the time, the other person beside him might be a newbie, so they'll get the joke, right? And they'll laugh and all that.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. And honestly, most of the time the show, it's really a family show. So there's a lot of kids. It's not like I have to do a lot of fancy jokes. And they're watching me do some crazy things. So the show itself is pretty entertaining. And then I have little bits that are in there.
Well, that's
But
pretty
again,
cool.
this isn't something that I do a lot of anymore. I do a few times a year. It's just a kind of a hobby.
Well, I like hobbies. I'll have to look into your hobby and see if I can find any. So, Joshua, let's get into more of the hypnosis. Yeah, say that 5 times, Miss Liz. Hypnosis. So, I want to talk to you about the fears, because you said that there's always a hidden reason, right? Like if you're afraid of heights, what is the main cause of that fear of heights? Is it
I mean,
something in your life?
it can be different for everyone, but most of the time, I'll describe this in basically the neuroscience of what is happening, because I like to speak in a way that actually isn't just a bunch of woo-woo. It's actually how you measure this. So
Yeah.
Hypnosis has been around for called hypnosis for a little over 100 some years, and it worked, but people didn't really know why it worked. They just knew it worked. Now that we have technology that can measure all this stuff, we can start to see what's actually going on here. And neuroscience has grown a ton in the past 20 years. So the neuroscience behind a problem, let's start with that, is something happens in our life, and it's usually highly emotional. It can be positive or negative, but most often it's negative. So like you kind of hinted at that, something happened early in your life that was a traumatic moment. Usually like a traumatic moment like that can happen and create a pathway in the brain.
Okay.
So if we use anxiety as an example, something scary is happening. We feel anxious, and so we move away from the scary thing, and now we're okay again. Now we're safe. That pathway of anxiety successfully worked, meaning we did not die. Like that's all that the brain is really caring about. The brain wants to be efficient and use as little energy as possible, and so it looks for these pathways. And if something happens and it tries something and you don't die, it looks at it as success. I'm not dead. This was a successful strategy. When you're in a situation now that's kind of sort of similar, the brain will go, oh, we use that strategy in this situation. That was pretty much the same. Let's try that again. Try it again. Again, it works. You don't die. Oh, great. So now there's something called neuroplasticity. This is how the brain finds these pathways and strengthens them. So if they work and if you're using them, they get stronger. Neuroplasticity is how we learn things and how we get better at things. But the problem with neuroplasticity is the brain doesn't care if something helps you thrive or not. Again, all it's caring about is, am I dead or not? Am I not dead? Great, it's working. So it's just going to keep using this pathway. There's a law in neuroscience called Hebb's law. And this law says the neurons that fire together wire together. So that's how we get these pathways in the first place. But then as we fire them together, as we wire them together, they get stronger and stronger. It becomes almost like a superhighway, a mega road, and it's very easy to go down. It uses very little energy. It's the path of least resistance. Another way to think about it is on a ski hill where everybody's skiing down the hill. It gets slick. You get on that slick stripe and you're just flying down the hill. It works really easy. It's even hard to get out of it because you're going down the groove. That's kind of what we're building here, these pathways. We're building this path of least resistance, this super highway that you don't have to think about it. In fact, when the situation shows up, like it's time to do the show, in instant, it just shows up, right? You didn't decide, oh, it's time now for me to feel a little bit of anxiety. So no, the brain just does what it's always does. It's like, oh, here's the thing. Make it so, and it just happens, right? That's automatic reaction. That's what the brain does to use as little energy as possible and to be efficient and effective. Just keeps going down that pathway. So that's how a problem gets created in the first place. With hypnosis, what we are doing is we're rewiring that. We're increasing the neuroplasticity. So going into a hypnotic state increases neuroplasticity. Another way to do that is a psychedelic. Like psychedelics, that's why they help people with PTSD and all these other things, because when you take it, while you're in the process of it, you have that neuroplasticity happening. But even beyond that, after some of those psychedelics, for literally for weeks after you've taken it, when there's no longer anything in your system, your brain is still operating at that with a higher level of neuroplasticity, making new connections, making connections that weren't there before. That's how you rewire the brain. With hypnosis, what we do is take you into a very relaxed state where you're able to focus, and you're able to, in some instances, we might go back in time and revisit a memory, but give that younger you different resources so that they can go through a situation differently. And then that memory that you've been holding on to, that's had this big charge, it just dissolves. The memory is still there, but the meaning that we used to give it, remember, the only meaning that's there is the meaning we give things, the meaning that we give it, or the story that we're telling about it, it just goes away because now we're giving it different meaning. Now we have a different story that we can tell. And then that collapses that problem across your life. May not happen with just a single session, although a single session can sometimes do that. Typically, I'm working with somebody for a series of sessions, and we're doing this in different ways. There's many different ways to change that pathway with hypnosis, aside from kind of going back in time. Like, that's one example, but it's not the only way to do it. And so we do that again and again. We use neuroplasticity to strengthen the new pathway until this one becomes the super highway, and the old one just starts to dissolve away.
So it's kind of like you're making new pathways, like new roads, right?
Exactly. So to use the analogy, right? What you got to do is, when you're making a new road, first you got to cut down the trees, then you got to put down the gravel, then eventually you're getting to that super highway, but it's going to take a few times. Or if we're going to the ski hill, hypnosis is like a fresh layer of snow. So now you can ski in a different direction. And now you just do that again and again, and now you have a new path that you've created.
So when you're going in, when someone is being hypnotized, Joshua,
Mm-hmm.
are they like, is it easy to hypnotize people? Can everyone be hypnotized? Like, are there individuals that can't be? Like,
the way that I like to think about this, and this is a very common question, and because we've heard this and you've probably seen, many people have seen shows where some people have been sent off the stage because it didn't work for them, or they were even that person who tried it and it didn't work on them. I like to think of this as, rather than let's call it hypnosis, let's call it a trance, because this is what we're really talking about. We're going into a trance state where we have access to deeper resources, different aspects of us that we don't have outside of that trance state, or where it's not as easy to access outside of that trance state. Hypnosis is a way to go into trance. The thing is, we go in and out of trance states all of the time. And in fact, when you're stuck in the anxiety loop, you're in an anxiety trance. So what I notice is, anyone can be hypnotized because we're going in and out of trance all the time. So this is about going into an intentional trance, a positive trance. When you're seeing a show and you've seen somebody not be able to go into hypnosis, it has nothing to do with can they go into hypnosis or not. It has more to do with, well, maybe that person just didn't feel like making a fool out of themselves in front of 1,000 people tonight. Or maybe they're just not feeling very well. Maybe they're really nervous about this. There's lots of things that can come up that will block it from happening, but hypnotic trance is a co-created process. I think I'm a guide. I'm using my language to help to guide someone's mind into that state, but they are also engaged. They're not unconscious. Like, this is a common thing. People think that, oh, I just want to go get hypnotized, and you're gonna put me under, and you're gonna say some things, and then I'm gonna wake up and everything is gonna be different. It's not like that. That's the movies, or that's those shows that look that way. But what we're really doing is different than that. We're working together to take you to a place where you can make changes for yourself. And I might say some words, right, that we've agreed upon together. So we've come up with the things that are going to be meaningful to you. And then when you're in that more relaxed, open state, I'm going to tell them to you, like, this is the things that you're going to do now. But also, we're going to do a lot of healing too. So this is more about a holistic view of helping you get into the right mindset that you want to be, to transform how you show up, to bring in that final tea from the tea that we're drinking tonight.
I just love the way Joshua did that. Like, he just took his tea a little bit over here, a little bit over here, a bit over here. And that's how it is sometimes, and that's how we serve differently, right? We don't talk much about trance. When I had a couple of other hypnotists on Teatime, and we never talked about the trance and the states of trances and all that. So that's really interesting. Like, I really want to know a little bit more about the trances. Maybe me and we can talk about that a little later. Sure. But I want to get into, like, what causes self-doubt in an individual, because we all have self-doubt,
and
right?
That was the thing that kind of showed up for me a lot too. I mean, it was ultimately what I think, and I can talk for myself. I can talk for what I see a lot, but I see a lot of fear of rejection, fear of failure, a lot of fear-based kinds of behaviors where people are going to hold themselves back because then they don't have to face the possibility of failure. So think of, like, a perfectionist is somebody who, it's not about being perfect. It's about not screwing up. And have you heard of the growth mindset? I imagine that you've heard that term before.
Yes, I have.
Mindset, right?
Yeah.
So this is a lot of what I help people find. When you're, like, when I was in my 20s, 30s, I had a very fixed mindset. And I had lots of rules around what I thought life was supposed to be like and how you did things. And if I couldn't do it perfect, I wouldn't do it at all. Things were safer that way, rather than, ask out a woman. I would avoid that and just not do it because it was felt too uncomfortable to risk being rejected than to put myself out there. Part of this is learning that it's okay to make a mistake. In fact, mistakes are great. That's how we learn things. If we
I say it all the time, go out and make a mess. Make a mistake. Screw up.
Yeah. If we didn't make mistakes, or if we didn't move on from mistakes, we'd never grow. Like, when we were a kid, that first step that you took, you fell down. And if we had fixed mindsets as little children, that would happen, and we go, well, I guess I can't walk.
Yeah.
That's too bad. But even as little kids, we know it's okay to make mistakes. That's how we grow. That's how we learn. And sometimes we forget that. The reason that we forget that is we have experiences through life that feel embarrassing, or maybe somebody made fun of us or picked on us, or a parent said a certain thing, or we had trauma stuff that happened, and it became our trauma response to hide or be quiet or whatever it is. Like, there's lots of ways that can show up. So a lot of what happens is I'm helping people heal these trauma responses that they've had, and really don't even maybe realize that that's what's going on, so that they can just show up the way they want to. Like, this is about being authentic, being who you are, living life the way you want to live it, not the way that just happened, but, like, if you could imagine how you want to live your life, let's do that.
Well, and sometimes we need that outside help as well, right?
Yeah.
We know what we want, but we need that person to just kind of tell us what we want. You know, like, and there's a lot
Yeah.
of times where I'm like, oh, I really want to do this, but then somebody will say, well, just do it, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, I can, right? Like,
Yeah.
I can do it.
Yeah.
But we need that outside voice. You know, we always look for that verification if it's okay to do, right? Sometimes in our lives, especially if we've gone through trauma or hard times in life, where we're told, you know, you're not going to get it done, you're not going to do it. Well, then you got to show them, right? You got to just do it and say, huh, look, I did it.
Yeah.
You know, kind of have that backbone and that little rebel in you, like when you were a little boy, right? Be that little
Yep.
rebel.
The one who just
You
does
know, and
things.
I think podcasters are rebels. You know, there's how many of us out there? There's like 3.4 million podcasts out there. Like, I
Yeah.
think we're all little rebels. Like, we're all looking for something, right? So, Josh, I want to get into um, the improved confidence. To improve your confidence, how do we go about doing that? Because confidence is one thing that I struggled with for years. And I still have my days where I'm like, oh, I don't know, I'm not too very confident today. So, how do we get over that?
So there's lots of ways to do that. So again, sometimes that's kind of healing the past, because usually the reason that we're not confident is fear is there, and so we hold ourselves back. But sometimes it can be as simple as finding that feeling of confidence from this place over here and borrowing it to use it over here in this context. Much of what I help people do is change their state. Like, that's, if you want to kind of really pull it down, when you're in a fear state that's non-resourceful, I help you find the confident state, which is resourceful, and then apply it in the situation. So, like, to give you an example of how you do that, where do you mind if I do a little bit
Sure.
with you?
You
So,
can do anything you
okay,
want.
okay, cool. So, and we can, this is very conversational. Like, there's lots of ways to do this type of work. So, and I've been trained as a hypnotist, and I've been trained as a NLP practitioner, and all these different things. So I just kind of mix them all together and do the way that I like. So tell me about an area in your life that you'd like more confidence.
Public speaking.
Okay. Public speaking. And when is the last time that you tried to do public speaking?
The last time I did a public event, I think was 2021 in Detroit.
Okay. And was there a moment where where something happened, or like what was your experience kind of going into that moment?
I was fine. It was almost like when before we go live, Josh, where
Yeah.
that excitement comes in, right?
Okay.
But as soon as I hit the stage, and all of a sudden the words are coming out, and I have no problem, but I'm not under. It's almost like I'm in a trance, and I don't remember that moment.
And the moment is happening before you go on the stage. So
Yeah,
very similar to what happened before we did the show then.
yeah.
Okay. How would you like things to be different?
Well, I wouldn't want to have that excitement before I go on, because it was a good excitement, but I mean, it's
I'm going to stop you.
okay.
You just told me what you don't want, but I want to know what you do want. So how would you like things to be different?
Smooth,
Smooth.
like smooth.
Okay. So tell me about a time when things went really smooth for you. And it can be in any context.
Ooh, that's a good question, Josh. Nothing's gone smooth. Ah,
Any context.
ooh, I'm not sure. When I wrote my book,
When you wrote your book. Okay. And when is this? I want you to think of a specific moment when it felt like things were going smooth as you did that.
when I first started,
Okay. And describe that moment to me when you first started and everything's going smooth for you.
it was just writing, the releasing, just being able to drop the words onto the paper. It's almost like public speaking, right? The words just dropping.
Words are
It's
just
almost,
dropping. Yeah. And
yeah, words are
are you
dropping.
typing? Are you writing by hand? How do you do that?
Handwriting.
So you're
I only
handwriting,
handwrite
the
everything first.
words are just dropping out, and you're feeling that smooth feeling, that kind of flow feeling. Where do you notice that feeling in your body? Where does it start?
In my shoulders.
In your shoulders. That's right. And if this feeling had a color, or you could give it a color, what color would you give it? What would it be?
Yellow.
That's right. So it's in your shoulders and it's yellow and it's that smooth feeling of just dropping those words. Now, if this feeling had a shape, what would it be?
Square.
A square. So it's a yellow square in your shoulders and it's that smooth feeling of just dropping those words. Now, every kind of feeling has movement, has energy to it, right? Emotion, energy in motion. So how does this energy move for you? A lot of times energy can pulse or it spread to other areas of your body, or maybe it rotates, stays solid. How does this energy move for you?
It's like a squiggly line, like, like water flow.
Like flow, like water flow.
Yeah.
So it's like a squiggly water flow. It's a yellow square that's in your shoulders. It's got a kind of a squiggly flow like water, and it's that smooth. The words are just dropping. That right?
Yeah.
Good. So take a deep breath and breathe into that yellow square, and then take that feeling back to that moment when right before you're stepping on the stage. It's right before you're stepping on the stage, but you have this yellow square now. And it's that yellow square. It's got that flow to it. And it's just like the words are dropping. What's different when you have the yellow square and you're just about to step on that stage?
I think it's a self-doubt.
Oh, you misunderstand. I don't want to know what happened. What's different when you have the yellow square and it's there and it's that flow feeling? And then it's right when you're going to step on the stage. It's like, so this is like an imaginative exercise. Take yourself back, but this time bring that yellow square with you. What's different when you have the yellow square?
I just do it.
You just do it. That's right. And how does that feel when you just do it?
Feels good.
Good. Take that yellow square again. So that yellow square that's in your shoulders and it's like got that flow to it. It's just like dropping those words. It's that smooth feeling. Take it back to earlier today, right before we went live. Now you've got the yellow square. What's different now?
Well, now I'm not scared.
Well, what are you?
I'm happy.
You're happy. That's
I'm excited.
Right. Yeah, right. You're happy and excited. Good. That's an example of how you can take, like you just created for yourself now, a feeling of confidence, of just letting those words out, that smooth feeling, that flow feeling, just by tuning into that shape, that color. I didn't tell you what they were. You brought that out based on your experience. This is a way of grabbing that state that you want and applying it in these areas that in the past you didn't have it, but now you can have it. So like this is a small example. Like usually I'll do more, but that's, that this is how you can find that piece of consciousness that you want and apply it in the areas that in the past you didn't have it.
Well, that's really cool. I thank you, Josh. I kind of am blown away by that little experiment.
Yeah.
I love when my guests kind of use me as an example because sometimes it opens up doors and it brings a lot of as well. So, Joshua, before we're almost at the end here, we only got a couple minutes left. I want to get into what you do because what you just did for me is what you're offering the guests as well as a 7-day email experiment. And is this part of what you're going to be doing with me in 7 days?
It's similar, like definitely in that process. So I'll just describe what it is and then I'll answer that question. I have for the last 6 months, I've been spending basically all of my extra time on building out this process. And what I want to do is I wanted to figure out a way to help more people than I can just doing a one-on-one. Like I've got a limited amount of time. I can only help so many people and not everybody, has the money to pay for one-on-one coaching and all that stuff. So I was trying to find a way to help more people, make it super affordable. And also with transformation as the main thing here. Like this isn't going to be worth doing if it doesn't make a difference in somebody's life. So that's what this 7-day program is. It's in 7 days over a series of emails and some audio recordings. It will take a specific issue. Like your example is a great one, right? that public speaking would work really well with this. Any kind of fear, any kind of anxiety, any kind of worry, or whatever's blocking you, that's what this is designed to do, is to eliminate it. Now, this is a process that I can walk somebody through in about an hour, but to make it accessible and work without me being there, I had to split it out into a little bit more. So over 7 days, it's going to walk you through this process. And it does have a choose your own adventure piece to it too. So you can do it on fast mode. You can probably run through this in a little bit over an hour if you just like hammer through it and just go email after email after email. But that's what it's designed to do, is to help somebody get through that. And a piece of it is identifying what we would do a little bit deeper, Liz, is we would have tuned into that fear feeling.
Okay.
And followed it in time to other moments when you might have felt it, and find either the earliest time or maybe the most important time when it was there. Because usually that's the core. That's like the root of this problem. And then we'll do a process that's about 45 minutes that clears that out, that removes the charge from that memory, like I was talking about. So that, and then we bring it into the future too. So now we're taking that same thing, pulling it into the future. That's the free gift that I have for your guests. And yeah, I think you've got it up right there. It's right on the screen. So xfactorhypnosis.com/T, and it will give you this process for free.
So Joshua, this is almost like a time travel, because you're talking about the past, the present, and the future. So like, are we time traveling when we're in these trances? Like,
I mean, you might look at it like that for sure. We're definitely traveling to different aspects of ourselves. Look at it that way.
I like it. If anybody knows Miss Liz loves time travel. So I love how you worded that, Josh. Joshua, I want to talk about your favorite color, because your favorite color that you gave me was black.
Yeah.
So why black?
I look good in black, for one. I forgot that, and I actually happen to be wearing black today.
Like, hey, I look good in it.
I like the color black. I like it is all of the colors. So it's not just no colors. Like that's what you think of it, it's empty, but no, it's actually all of the colors. That's what makes it black. It's an easy one because I don't have to make a lot of choices. I can just wear black and I know it looks good. And that's it. That's pretty much the reasoning behind it. I don't have there's no mystical reason behind why I like the color black, but I just like the color black.
I kind of like that you said that all the colors are put in to make black, because that's how the ink, right? That's how the printer works. It adds all these other colors, keeps telling you to fill all those other colors up, and you're like, I got black ink though, So, and the word that you gave me to describe yourself was persistent. Why that word, Joshua?
That's ready, fire, aim. That's what I am I've been persistently working on this program for 6 months, and I'm always changing it up. In fact, this morning I changed something up in it. I want to make it as powerful as it can be. And I do that by just keep on learning and trying the next thing, trying the next iteration. So persistence means starting, being interested in sideshow, and then exploring that, taking it as far as I think I can take it, and then getting interested in hypnosis and taking that where I can take it. Like persistence is taking action just to take action sometimes. Well,
and I think it goes right back to the performing, right? Because you have to take that action to perform. So
yep.
So the 3 words that you gave me, transformation, empowerment, and authenticity, why those 3 words for your T?
They are very important to me. Empowerment is why I got into this line of work in the first place. And it was mainly because I didn't feel empowered myself. So as I've become empowered, I want to help others get to whatever that is for them too. And it's different for everybody. Authenticity is really important to me. The reason that I started my podcast was because I was doing a lot of networking at the time, and I was going to this weekly networking group. I was driving there. It was about a half an hour away from my home. I was kind of angry and annoyed, and some guy cut me off, and I flipped him off, and he flipped me off, and we're both angry and
Road
we're
rage.
driving down the road, and I'm like, why am I doing this? And I realized that I was going to this networking event that I thought I was supposed to go to, showing up to these people that I thought I should show up to, and being the kind of person that I thought I should be for these kinds of people. It wasn't helping my business. And this was the kind of result that I was getting, was being angry and flipping off the drivers that are being crazy drivers. So I quit that networking group, and I decided, instead of all that, why don't I create a podcast where I talk about some things that, like, some of the things that I talk about on the podcast, they're a little out there, and I'm not super comfortable just randomly talking about those things. But I can interview experts that this is what they talk about all the time. And that can help me learn to talk about the stuff that I'm actually interested in, just by being around it. So it was about me being authentic. So that's a long story towards where authenticity comes in. So this is about me really showing up as me, learning what that, and some of that's learning who that is. Like, who am I? I've got my own layers of stuff from all the years of life that I have to shed. But I'm learning to do that. I'm learning to authentically talk about the things that I'm interested in, and share that both through my podcast, but also just by being real. And all of that is helping me to transform my life to the one going from where, I was stuck and it didn't feel like I had choices, to transforming it to now where I'm in charge of my life. I'm like, literally I don't get a paycheck unless I pay myself. So I'm literally in charge of everything here. And I am loving all of that.
So Josh, how did you get the name of your podcast, Super States?
I was trying to think of a way to talk about altered states in a little bit different of a way. So to me, what we're talking about is these trance states, right? Like, we've talked about it with psychedelics, we've talked about it with hypnosis, but another great way is through breath work. That's another way to get there. Another way is through sex and through movement, music. There's lots of ways to create an altered state. And that's what my podcast is all about, all these different ways of creating altered states.
Well, if anybody wanted to listen to that podcast, and run on over, give that a follow, because I think I'm going to be checking some of that out, because there's some interesting topics in there.
Yeah.
So Josh, what final words do you have for everybody tonight?
What kind of words? What final words?
What final words do you have?
Almost anything can be resolved just by breathing through it. So if you're in a fearful state, if you're in a excited state, anxious state, whatever, just breathe. Breathing is the one automatic part of our body that we have any control over, and we can control it. So a great breath is a 5-second in and 5-second out. Just keep doing that, and you're going to very quickly alter your state.
Awesome. Well, I really want to thank you for joining me, Josh and Joshua. It was amazing. And I love that you used me as an experiment, because I learned a little bit about myself, because my favorite colors are blue and orange. So I was surprised that I said yellow. And my shoulders, I thought I would have said my fingers, because that's where I write from, right? But it's amazing what you learn about yourself when you're actually paying attention to someone else asking the questions, right? Because sometimes you think you know yourself, and other people might just know a little bit of taking you in a different path, creating new roads, right? That pathway. So thank you for that, Joshua.
You bet.
Really.
And the key to that is that we brought you to a place where you were literally feeling that feeling. And then you could just look, oh, where is it? Oh, it's right there. Oh, it's this color. It's this shape, right? It wasn't like making something up at that point. It was, you were already in the state. So it was easy to access.
Well, thank you so much for that. And thank you to all the listeners who joined in tonight. And if you're watching a replay, please push hashtag replay and let me know where you're tuning in from, because I always like to hear where you guys are coming in from. We will be back tomorrow afternoon with a surprise. Miss Liz is bringing Santa to the table. That's right. I have Santa Papa John coming to the table. He is a TikTok Santa that you can find on TikTok. And he's an amazing man. And he'll be coming and sharing what he does in the summertime when he's not working in North Pole, because that's how Santa works, right? Santa has to work somewhere else during the summer. So we're going to bring Santa in, and we're going to do a little bit of Christmas in July with Santa Papa John's tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we'll be back on Thursday, where we have Bernadette coming in from Austria. And then we have Joshua, who's a returning guest from season 3, 4, and 5. So he really likes to serve his tea with us. So he'll be bringing in fantasy. So until then, I want to wish everybody a good night, and stay true to your teas, serve your teas, and we'll all make a difference one day at a time when we're serving real life stories and words. Thank you for joining me tonight on Tea Time with Miss Liz.